There are inventions which have triggered revolutions, innovations that have changed the face of civilization and the shape of the world. From the wheel to concrete and steel, from the nail to the X ray and email, from the compass to the printing press and the web, from the light bulb to the battery and antibiotics. The directory of revolutionary inventions tells a tale and paints a picture of the colossal scale of the human creative imagination, and on the list of groundbreaking technologies must lie the plow. First pioneered by the ancient Sumerians, the plow, known in different ages and places as the salo, the arda, and the medela, unleashed the power of the ground to produce food on a magnitude previously inconceivable. The plough is an agricultural contraption which to this day, through amendments and updates, transforms economies and exhibits the clout and the power of the responsible nation, from the Sumerians to the Chinese and the Romans to the Greeks to the English and John Deere, who commercialized the American plough, made of steel, which leads us to the Jewish contribution to the world of ploughs. This morning we read Lo techarosh b'shar uv'chamor yachdav. You shall not plow with an ox and a donkey together. So while our ancient neighbors were transforming civilization and launching a new era of industrial efficiency and commercial productivity and human prosperity, our supreme prophet offers a simple teaching. And this is our question. Why? What on earth is the purpose beneath this law that we ought never to harness an ox with a donkey? Why does divine revelation focus our attention on a seemingly arcane agricultural regulation while the wider world propels a technological revolution that promises to feed the poor and redeem the world? And for a whole range of our commentators, the very question itself borders on profanity. Who are we to adjudicate the motivations behind the divine regulations? Who are we to arbitrate or referee the reasons beneath God's commandments? In the words of one commentator, Zeh chok mechukei haTorah. This is one of the Torah's inscrutable statutes. Ve'en lanu lachkor ta'amo, and it is not our place to seek its reason. But there are plenty of others who feel quite at ease offering a reason for this divine decree, seeing the rule which forbids hitching an ox together with a mule as part of a legal system which seeks to teach us all a lesson in humility. For a number of the Jewish mystics, this material plane is divinely fine tuned, precisely honed, and highly fragile. So, interbreeding species or hybridizing seeds or mongrelizing grain is not only an expression of deep ignorance and an exhibition of surpassing arrogance, but is a fatal conceit that imperils creation. To blend and meld and mingle created matter is to meddle with existential equilibrium and risk cosmic pandemonium. To toy with science is to play with fire and tempt chaos for these mystics. So, these mystics, hypersensitive to the dangers of scientific arrogance and genetic interference, see God as forbidding the co-hitching of different species to preclude even a remote chance of cross breeding. In the words of the Rabbeinu Bachya, Ikar ha'ta'am b'mitzvah zu, the central concern at the core of this command is Shema Yavo laharva'ah, is a fear lest one may come to interbreed species, ulahachish ma'asev reshit, and contravene creation. While we may embrace revolutionary technologies, our creativity must be curbed by an earnest and solemn humility, for it is arrogance, these mystics claim, that can generate a catastrophe of the highest order. But there is another view which emerges in Jewish tradition that can be found in a whole range of our commentators, one focused less on cosmic fragility and more on terrestrial responsibility, less on mysticism and more on morality, less on what our hubris may do to the heavens and more on what our malice may do on earth. In the words of the Chizkuni, there are two interconnected reasons for this seemingly arbitrary prohibition against yoking an ox and a donkey to a single plow. First, the Chizkuni notes, comes divine compassion. Rachamav Shalakadosh Baruch Hu al kol ma'asav. He says God has mercy on all his creatures. And this heavenly empathy is germane here because if harnessed together, one of these two animals will be under immense strain because ein koach hachamor koach hashor. Simply put, donkeys are not as strong as oxen. And while at the end of the day the furrows will be made and the seeds can be sown, it will have come at the cost of an animal's over exertion. And beyond the physical strain that would plague the donkey, there is psychological pain as well, because oxen, as kosher animals, chew their cud, but donkeys don't, which would mean that though neither had been fed, the ox would be endlessly regurgitating and chewing its food, inciting an appetite and perhaps a sense of neglect. In the donkey, in the words of the Chizkuni, nimtza shezeh ochel v'zeh mitaner. The consequence will be that one animal eats while the other suffers, v'zeu tsar balei chayim, and this is a form of animal abuse. As the ox chews in earshot of the donkey, the latter will be afflicted by pangs of hunger and a sense of jealousy, and this emotional agony is enough for God to descend from the heavens and outlaw this practice as criminal. So while mystics are concerned with the cosmic consequences of unbridled creativity, these thinkers are concerned with the ostensibly inconsequential suffering of a single creature. While the mystics are worried about hubris, these readers are worried about subtle brutality. So for these readers, while our ancient neighbors were propelling an economic transformation, it was our tradition that was most revolutionary, that sought to inhibit the callous calculations that the allure of prosperity can bring. Jewish tradition does not reject material wealth as wicked, nor does it see affluence as malignant or inexorably malevolent, but it cautions against a morally vacant march toward prosperity. It warns against industrial dreams which would justify any means for their commercial ends. It warns that God abhors the sacrifice of others' pain on the altar of personal profit. Sympathy must anchor every endeavor, or eventually it will lead those who have power to crush those who don't. In the words of Rabbi Sachs, whose thought at large we started to explore this afternoon and will do each week at Sudash Leshet, he says, a civilization that has space for science but not religion might achieve technological prowess, but it would not respect people in their specificity and particularity. It would quickly become inhuman and inhumane. Unmoored science cannot but desecrate the human person. The ancient Sumerians may well have invented mass produced bricks and pottery, textile mills and metallurgy, mathematics, a chariot, and hydraulic engineering, but Sumeria is also thought to have been the birthplace of slavery. So our supreme prophet subordinates profit to sympathy and cements ethics at the center of our collective legacy. Sensitivity to all that breathes and relieving the pain of every creature is the watchword of our revolution, and it lives on to this day. Though the Sumerian Empire has been lost, the allure of an economic dream at any cost still tempts the soul, and the whole of our history summons us to overcome. So may we all continue to lead the revolution that our revelation began all those centuries ago, and may our commitment to a life that is defined by morals inspire us never to lie on our laurels, but to fight for a world that enshrines sympathy and empathy and dignity at the very apex of our common destiny. Shavua Tov.